I am PWTorch editor Wade Keller, along with PWTorch columnist Greg Parks, and we have a 12-minute hot take. Breaking news in the last couple of days, multiple reports of Ricochet opting to leave WWE when his deal expires. It's within a matter of weeks, it sounds like, based on reports. And I was a little surprised by this. WWE's been paying people well until the TKO buyout, and then there was concern that they're going to be pinching pennies a little bit more. We've seen Becky Lynch choose to at least take a hiatus to spend time, great, valuable family time, probably with her husband Seth, who's still rehabbing a knee. We have, a lot of reports coming out of just various talent that might not be staying. Natalia, another one, and so Ricochet gets added to the list. Now, it could be, Greg, that he just feels he should be pushed more. And it could be he has word from friends. He's got a really good offer from New Japan or AEW. It could be he is among a number of WWE wrestlers who might start playing a little bit of a hardball with TKO if they feel that they're being underpaid. What's your initial take on this?
Well, my thought is, look, I think that Ricochet is one of the most underutilized guys in WWE over the last 10 years or so. But if this were 3 years ago, 4 years ago, and we were talking about Ricochet as a free agent, I think AEW would be where a lot of us were begging him to go. But these days, like, I don't know if that's such a good decision. And outside of AEW, I don't know where he goes, where his talent is properly utilized if he doesn't feel like it's properly utilized in WWE. We don't know that's the reason he's potentially leaving. It could be, as you said, a money issue. But I mean, it kind of reminds me of that Simpsons episode where Mr. Burns, who's the richest man in Springfield, gets even more money, and his assistant
Uh
goes, "Mr. Burns, where would you like to put this?" And he's kind of like, just throw it on the pile. And so, I
huh.
mean, that's kind of what Ricochet
That's
feels like at this
awesome.
point in AEW. Like, just, well, what do we do with him? Just throw him on the pile, because his athleticism right now in WWE stands out, even as WWE talent has increased in terms of their in-ring ability. And there might not be a time in WWE history where the in-ring is as high quality and consistent as it is in WWE today, and Ricochet is a part of that. But his athleticism is special. It stands out in
Yep.
WWE, even amid the talent that WWE has accumulated on its main roster. You put Ricochet in AEW, where there are other wrestlers like Ricochet with the same high-flying talents, with the same athletic uh, traits that he has, all of a sudden he doesn't stand out as much. And you can definitely see him getting lost in the shuffle. I think back to how many WWE guys that we thought were underutilized that ended up going to AEW, and the grass wasn't always greener for those
Yeah.
guys. That's why I
Yeah.
say 4 years ago, I think there would have been a lot of excitement about Ricochet going to AEW and potentially paying off that potential he's shown in WWE. But with the way WWE wrestlers that we have felt were underutilized have been booked in in AEW since then, I'm not sure that confidence level is as high for a guy like Ricochet in 2024.
So my first thinking on this is Ricochet, given what WWE looks for in wrestlers, is at about the spot that he belongs. He's, in his
Mhm.
mid 30s, he's 35 years old, I think, and he's absolutely super exciting. And they put him out there and let him be exciting. But from the other aspects that WWE values the most, which is having a hook beyond athleticism, he's average or below average. And I mean, it's not shameful. I just am observing, obviously nobody goes, "Oh, I can't wait to tune into Raw to see a Ricochet promo." Nobody's
Mhm.
ever said that. His acting backstage is average. I mean, it's not like bad, but you want something in WWE, the way that they tell stories, that rises, I mean, to the acting level of Dominic Mysterio, for instance, where there's nuance and subtleties and you're curious about how he's going to react to things. And I don't think Ricochet has that kind of connection with the crowd. So the grass for me in AEW for Ricochet is greener in that AEW values what he brings that you just laid out very
Mhm.
well and accurately. He is a super exciting wrestler. And I think he's not going to end up being like Johnny TV, where he's on Collision and losing and they don't talk about him, even though he was a star at one point and had big national acclaim. I think if Ricochet came in, he's going to be not at a world title level, but I think, well, I mean, he'd end up with almost everybody ends up with the title there. I'm exaggerating slightly, but I think he would end up having pay-per-view matches for the international or TNT title. They would be showcases. AW fans would look forward to it, and they're not going to demand a lot from him beyond from a promo standpoint. I mean, not that AW doesn't do WWE style promos, but they have this whole other section of their booking scheme, which is just this wrestler's really, really good. He's not even Will Ospreay on the microphone. Ospreay, I think, has risen to the occasion. Maybe Ricochet would too. I'm skeptical that would happen at this point, Greg. So to me, the grass is greener in that I think Ricochet, if he takes pride in what he's good at, would feel more appreciated as the clock is ticking on his ability to be who he is in the ring. And if he isn't as worried about money, then he maybe AW pays less, but he has more professional pride. But I'm not sure that's the case anymore because I think Ricochet is the type of wrestler Tony Khan would covet. And you could make an argument that he'd be as valuable, but in completely different ways as Adam Copeland. I don't think he'll get Adam Copeland money. He's not a legend in that way, but he can still go. And he's got, 5-7 years left. Look at AJ Styles. I mean, there's wrestlers in their 40s who absolutely can go. So I'm not, if I'm like, and I don't have a ton of insight into Ricochet's mindset, but if I'm advising him, if I'm a friend of his who understands the business, I'd be like, I kind of get it. I get why he might want to leave and
Sure.
be featured better. And I'll throw you after the WWE looked like they were about to do that when Will Ospreay got signed, started getting pushes. It seemed like they were pushing Ricochet more, and now it's kind of died down. And now he's, the speed champion for whatever that's worth. And obviously they give him little token segments backstage, but nothing where you ever feel he's like one of the 8 most important people on any TV show he's on, and he would be in AEW.
And when I say he's been underutilized, one of the most underutilized talents in WWE, I think I mean it more so not that I think he's a world title level wrestler, because I think
Mhm.
you pointed out a lot of the flaws that the WWE sees in him that prevents him from getting to that level. But just as a consistent presence on television, he hasn't even really been that in a long time.
Yeah.
And you look at a guy like a Sami Zayn, who always seems to be around the mid card title. Even Bronson Reed of late, guy always around the mid card title. That could be Ricochet, but he will go long stretches seemingly without being on TV for no discernible reason. And so I think that lack of consistency is where I say he's underutilized. Now, is there any guarantee that that improves in AEW, a company that is notorious for lacking consistency with its wrestlers and its booking? And you will see wrestlers for 3 weeks on TV, and then you won't see them for 3 months, and there's no real rhyme or reason for that. I don't
Yeah.
know. You could see him being thrown onto Collision and get a 10-minute match against
Or
Hechicero or
Rampage.
something like that, or Rampage. Like,
Yeah.
so he could go. There are opponents in AEW that he could have fantastic matches with that he wouldn't be able to necessarily have those kind of matches with in WWE, because, as I said, there are not a lot of wrestlers like him in WWE. So yes, he's having matches, but to what end? I mean, is he content just to have a good 10-minute match with Hechicero on a Collision that doesn't necessarily lead to anything? I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe that's creatively satisfying for him, but I
Yeah.
just don't see that there's a bigger upside for him to do more necessarily than there potentially could be in WWE.
Yeah,
And
I
I
mean,
mean
yeah.
that's assuming he goes to AEW. I mean, we could talk about the independents, we could talk about the New Japan angle. Those are potential landing spots for Ricochet as well.
I think 6 years ago, we could have talked about independence being an option for him. I think I just don't think that's a viable option for somebody who has interest by WWE to stay. I don't
Mhm.
think WWE is like lowballing him, hoping he leaves. I mean, I think they value him in the role that he's in. So then the question is, unless there's something else going on we don't know about, but if if they value him and are giving him an offer, but he thinks he can do better or he wants to be more creatively fulfilled, I don't see him walking away to do independence. But independence mixed with New Japan, if New Japan is going, we really need a spark. We need somebody who can work with our guys, who is the right size and can go and maybe is going to help the streaming service sales, ticket sales. I like the idea of Ricochet becoming an American star in New Japan. They need
Mhm.
something. I just don't know in the state that they're in and
Yeah.
again, that depends on if he's willing to wants to travel more, but fewer dates overall. I just don't. I don't know that New Japan has the budget right now where they can lure him away from whatever AEW would offer if he is truly unsatisfied or restless in WWE. So, but it's a legit option, especially if Tony Khan's starting to feel like he's up against a salary cap or wants to at least save his money for people different. Although, again, I do think Ricochet, with the caveats you said, is a good fit for AEW. But part of being a good fit for AEW comes with some of the baggage that you said, which is you're just thrown out there without context to have a good match. But that is how Tony Khan fills his TV time, and his fan base, which is smaller than WWE. It's for sickos and high spot fans, in using Tony Khan's words. And I don't think Ricochet is going to be a sicko, unless sicko applies to crazy, wild high spots. But yeah, Greg.
And I don't, when I say independence, I almost literally mean an independent wrestler, because you look at Nick Nemeth, you look at Mustafa Ali and what they've
Mm,
done since they've left
yeah,
WWE. They've dabbled in some of the larger independents in the United States, but they've also appeared in TNA. They've also appeared in New Japan. So it may not be just on those, cards that draw 300 fans at your local armory. It could be
yeah.
just a mix of everything as an independent wrestler who's not contracted to a certain company. You could see Ricochet maybe do that for 6 months a year. I don't think it's a long term thing, but New Japan, as you said, uh, they do need a spark. And I just got done watching Dominion, and one of the things that stood out to me watching one of their biggest shows of the year is there are not a lot of personalities anymore that pop off the page for New Japan.
Mhm.
John Moxley was the biggest, and he's an AEW wrestler, and so they do need those as much as a personality. The personality that he displays might be a hindrance from getting a push in WWE. It actually might be kind of what New Japan is looking for these days. And so, in a different time, maybe where the yen is stronger, would that be an option? Maybe. Maybe New Japan strong shows in America might be where you could see Ricochet pop up, especially with AEW's working agreement with New Japan. If Ricochet does sign with AEW, it doesn't eliminate the possibility of him working some New Japan shows. So I don't think there's going to be a shortage of options. I just don't see a place where I can say, yes, Ricochet is going to be used so much better there than he is in WWE.
So my prediction is he ends up in AEW, and I think he's going to end up being used a little bit better than you're fearing. But your concern is not unjustified. But I think he'd be the type of person, because he's still young enough to have years, so he's worth
Mhm.
investing in. Um, I think he'll end up there, and I think he'll be used pretty well. But like I said, the type who's feuding with Orange Cassidy, and that's a good spot in AEW. I mean, that gets a lot of
Right.
TV time and is featured. Greg, what's your prediction?
I do think if he doesn't resign with WWE, which
Well, do you
who
think he?
knows, may
Yeah,
may still be
that's
on the
part of the
table.
prediction. Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't rule that out completely based on the reports that are out there. But yeah, I do think AEW, when Tony Khan talks about wanting to free up some money and still want to be able to go after some of the bigger free agents that pop up, I do think Ricochet is the type of free agent that would be attractive to Tony Khan for a lot of the reasons that we've talked about. But again, this is a guy who has signed other wrestlers who he has spoken very highly of, and I think there's been some disappointment with how those wrestlers have been booked over the long term. So I would not be surprised to see Ricochet come in and get a big push for the first couple months. But it's really going to be, what do you do in month 5 and month 6 with Ricochet? Is he still
yeah.
one of your top guys? Is he off TV and on TV and wrestling on Rampage and squash matches? That's going to be what's going to be interesting for me to look out for if he does go to AEW.
Greg, we are getting a 2-minute demerit. We've gone almost 2 minutes over our 12-minute hot take. It is a skill set we are continuing to polish here, but that's not too bad. So tell people about your podcast, how they can see you and listen to you on Sunday nights.
Yeah, Wrestling Night in America every Sunday night. We're recording this on Sunday. And so after NXT Battleground, we're going on the air. Kelly Wells and myself will be doing the NXT Battleground post show live on YouTube, streaming there. And we're also going to try to fit in a preview of Clash at the Castle since that's next weekend. And we
Yeah.
do talk about the big shows in pro wrestling on Wrestling Night in America. And if there's a little bit of time, I know Kelly is big into New Japan, so maybe I can throw some
Uh,
Dominion thoughts at him as well. But that's going to be a lot to fit in. But we certainly want people to tune in live each and every Sunday. Comment on what we're talking talking about, offer your thoughts, because that can kind of form the basis of what we're talking about. And you can also email us, wnialivecast@gmail.com.
Let's put that up on the screen for everybody.
Perfect.
Well, that's if I can find the link. Here we are. So there's where everybody wants to go. Email the show. Let them know. You can listen to it by searching PWTorch in your podcast app. And subscribe to the PWTorch Daily Cast feed that includes on Sunday nights Wrestling Night in America. Different show every night of the week. If you're a fan of WWE and a fan of AEW, there are shows each week dedicated to them with great pairs of hosts, and it is absolutely worth doing. Two excellent shows, AW Conversation Club and Acknowledging WWE on the PWTorch Daily Cast lineup also. But shoot Greg an email and join him live after NXT tonight, or watch it on demand if it's already past Sunday night. Greg Parks, Pro Wrestling Torch columnist, thank you very much. We will talk to you very soon.
Great. Thanks, Wade.
You bet.